podcast.
CNN Breaking News.
To breaking political news, CNN now told Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is campaign for the presidency. This, of course, in a campaign that's been put on pause by the coronavirus crisis. CNN's Ryan Nobles has been covering the Sanders campaign from the beginning. And joins us, Ryan, the senator from Vermont, finally deciding which side to bow out.
Senator Sanders, his campaign basically been the coronavirus crisis, and with each passing vote, he was falling further and further behind former Vice President Joe Biden in the delegate count, and now finally, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders has decided it is time for him to bow out. We're told that he informed his staff during an all-staff call that took place a little after 11 o'clock today, and then later this morning at 11:45, he'll hold a live stream where he will address his supporters and talk about his reasons for getting out of the race and what his plans are going forward. Of course, John, this was a difficult decision for Bernie Sanders on many levels, mainly because he had been at this fight for so long. And I'm not just talking about his time running for president of the United States, which he's basically been running for president for more than 5 years, if you go back to his entry into the race to take on Hillary Clinton back in the last go-round. Sanders has also been working on many of these progressive issues for more than 40 years of his career. And it seemed a couple of months ago that he was on the precipice of winning the Democratic nomination right before the vote in South Carolina. He had won 3 of the 4 last contests. He and his team felt that they were in a good position going into Super Tuesday, and then of course it all fell apart after losing big time in South Carolina, and then the moderate vote coalescing around former Vice President Joe Biden, and after that Sanders was just never able to regain that footing that he had once established. The big question, I think, John, now is exactly what does Bernie Sanders do to encourage
but 50 years of age or younger. In other words, the future of this country is with our ideas. As we are all painfully aware, we now face an unprecedented crisis. Not only are we dealing with a coronavirus pandemic, which is taking the lives of many thousands of our people, we are also dealing with an economic meltdown that has resulted in the loss of millions of jobs. Today, families all across our country face financial hardship unimaginable only a few months ago. And because of the unacceptable levels of income and wealth inequality in our economy, many of our friends and neighbors have little or no savings and are desperately trying to pay their rent or their mortgage or even put food on the table. This reality makes it clear to me that Congress must address this unprecedented crisis in an unprecedented way that protects the health and economic well-being of the working families of our country, not just powerful special interests. As a member of the Democratic leadership in the United States Senate, and as a senator from the state of Vermont, this is something that I intend to intensely be involved in over the next number of months, and that will require an enormous amount of work. Which takes me to the state of our presidential campaign. I wish I could give you better news, but I think you know the truth. And that is that we are now... Now some 300 delegates behind Vice President Biden, and the path toward victory is virtually impossible. So while we are winning the ideological battle, and while we are winning the support of so many young people and working people throughout the country, I have concluded that this battle for the Democratic nomination will not be successful. And so today, I am announcing the suspension of my campaign. Please know that I do not make this decision lightly. In fact, it's been a very difficult and painful decision. Over the past few weeks, Jane and I, in consultation with top staff and many of our prominent supporters, have made an honest assessment of the prospects for victory. If I believed we had a feasible path to the nomination, I would certainly continue the campaign. But it's just not there. I know that there may be some in our movement who disagree with this decision, who would like us to fight on to the left.
Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more.
What you say?
Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more.
Oh, woman, don't treat me so mean. You're the meanest old woman that I've ever seen. I guess if you say so, I'll have to pack my things and go.
That's right, hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more.
What you say?
Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more.
Now, baby, listen, baby, don't you treat me this way, 'cause I'll be back on my feet someday.
Don't care if you do, all is understood. You ain't got no money, you just ain't no good.
Well, I guess if you say so, I'll have to pack my things and go.
That's right, hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more.
What you say?
Hit the road, Jack.
senator, the independent Vermont senator, deciding to suspend his presidential campaign. Steve Kornacki follows the numbers like no one else. And Steve, I can't see you right now. I don't think you probably have your big board there in your apartment, but you've been following the numbers from the very beginning. Senator Sanders struggled mightily with brown voters. He struggled mightily with black voters as well. But if I recall correctly, Steve, he had also started to lose some of his support this time around with working class voters.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Craig, the trajectory of this Bernie Sanders campaign. Honestly, I've never quite seen something like this 2020 Democratic race, and that was even before the coronavirus came in and just changed everything altogether. What you had with Bernie Sanders was a candidate who history will show in the Iowa caucuses, he won the popular vote out there, by thousands of votes, the most people. He had the most supporters of any candidate in Iowa. He went into New Hampshire. He won the New Hampshire primary. He went to the third state, the Nevada caucuses. He won the Nevada caucuses handily. And then it's like the floor just fell out. And what really happened there was the rest of the party at that point, when Bernie Sanders emerged from those first three states with two clean victories and one sort of contested victory there in Iowa, if you want to call it that, when he emerged with that, it was as if the rest of the Democratic Party almost overnight sort of came to attention and said, look, if we don't do something, Bernie Sanders is going to be the Democratic nominee. And it was at that point that you saw this incredible movement towards Joe Biden. You saw the endorsement of Jim Clyburn for Joe Biden in South Carolina. You saw Biden suddenly win South Carolina by 30 points. You saw Buttigieg get out. You saw Klobuchar get out. You saw his flood of endorsements for Joe Biden. And the world just changed almost overnight in Democratic politics. And it came to the point then where Bernie Sanders, despite all of that early success, all of the talk that, hey, we've seen candidates in the past who've done really well in the early states and the bandwagon grows, he just hit a wall. The minute he